Riley Crossman was born on December 22, 2003, in the small American town of Martinsburg, West Virginia. When she was young, her parents divorced, and she, along with her mother and younger sister, moved to Berkeley Springs, a town 40 kilometers from Martinsburg. After some time, her mother began dating another man, and they had 3 more children together. Despite this, Riley maintained contact with her father and regularly visited him. Riley attended Berkeley Springs High School, where she participated in dance and singing. She had a boyfriend named Hayden Lane, and according to her parents, they had a wonderful relationship, and Riley was happy. They even had a joint social media account where they posted photos together. Riley's mother, Chantel Oakley, worked 2 jobs. On May 7, 2019, she left her morning shift early due to feeling unwell. After arriving home, she texted Riley, letting her know she was going to nap before her evening shift, and asked Riley to wake her up when she returned from school. Riley came home around 3:30 p.m., woke her mother, and went to her room. That day, the mother of Chantel's live-in boyfriend was also in the house, acting as a grandmother figure and looking after the younger children. Chantel returned from work around 10 p.m. As she passed by her daughter's room, she noticed the door was closed, but the light was on. Thinking Riley was getting ready for bed, Chantel herself went to sleep almost immediately. The next morning, around 7:15 a.m., Chantel checked on Riley before leaving for work, but Riley wasn't there. However, this wasn't particularly suspicious, as classes started at 7:45, and Riley may have already left. The school was only a few minutes' walk from home, so Riley commuted independently. Around midday, the school called Chantel, informing her that Riley had missed several lessons. This slightly worried Chantel, but she still didn't see it as a cause for serious concern, thinking her daughter might have gone out with friends. Around 3:30 p.m., Riley's grandmother began to worry. Riley should have been home by then, but she still wasn't back. She contacted Chantel, and at that moment, the mother suspected something was wrong. Riley always notified her when she planned to go somewhere with friends after classes, but that day, Chantel hadn't received any messages from her daughter. Chantel sent several texts, all of which went undelivered. She then tried calling Riley, but each call was forwarded to voicemail. Chantel called Riley's biological father, hoping Riley might have gone to see him, but he also hadn't been in contact with his daughter that day. Chantel asked the grandmother to go to the school and look for Riley. The grandmother went, but couldn't find her granddaughter. None of the teachers knew where she might be. Around 5 o'clock, Chantel decided to leave work and came to the school, but she also failed to find her daughter. In the parking lot, she noticed Riley's boyfriend and asked if he had seen her. However, Hayden said he had been on an out-of-town trip all day and hadn't been in contact with his girlfriend. Together, they searched the entire school grounds, looking in the building and the surrounding area, but Riley was nowhere to be found. After some time, Chantel decided to go home, hoping Riley might have returned there. Unfortunately, she wasn't there either. After waiting a little longer, she decided to contact the police. By that time, Riley's father had arrived in Berkeley Springs and set out to search for his daughter. He drove all around the small town, asking people he met if they had seen Riley. One local teenager said he had seen her walking down the street. Unfortunately, this information did not help find Riley, and investigators thought the boy was simply mistaken. The police quickly started searching, simultaneously questioning everyone who knew Riley. But none of her friends had seen her that day. Several teachers noted that she had been present in their classes. At first, this confused the detective, but it soon became clear that the teachers simply hadn't noticed the girl's absence and marked her as present. From conversations with Riley's acquaintances, the police began to reconstruct the chronology of events. They found out that on the evening of May 7th, the girl had been on the phone with her boyfriend until 10:30 p.m. and had also responded to friends' messages on social media until midnight. Then something very strange follows. At 5:40 a.m., Riley called her boyfriend via video chat, but he was asleep at the time and didn't answer. The detectives immediately suspected something was wrong. Why would Riley try to contact him at such an early hour? The girl's mother insisted that her daughter would never have run away from home. She had no reason to. Given that Riley was the oldest child in the family, her mother was lenient with her, not forbidding her from hanging out with friends or her boyfriend, allowing her to visit her father in another town at any time, and generally not controlling her every move. Riley herself reported her plans. At the time of her disappearance, the girl didn't have a driver's license, so she couldn't have driven out of town. This indicated that the runaway version looked unlikely. The detectives considered the kidnapping version as the most probable. On the same evening that Riley's mother contacted law enforcement, they began searching for the girl. Police searched the school and the surrounding area and combed the town. Very quickly, they were joined by volunteers from among the local residents who were not indifferent to Riley's fate. As is usually the case, the inhabitants of such small towns believe that nothing like this will happen to them. Soon, the police decided to search Riley's bedroom, and there they found the first grim clue. On the pillow and sheet, they discovered bloodstains. These items were immediately sent to the lab, where experts conducted DNA analysis. At this point, everyone realized that something terrible had happened to the girl. If her family had hoped that Riley had gone somewhere on her own initiative, then after the discovery of the blood, those hopes were shattered. The mother had not noticed the blood traces when she examined her daughter's bedroom several hours earlier, because the bed was made, and it didn't occur to her to lift the blanket. This find indicated not only that the girl had been attacked, but also that it had all happened in her home, and the police had to find out who could have done it. After the discovery of the blood traces, the scale of the search increased. In the following days, even more volunteers joined the police. Dozens of people provided various equipment that could be useful in surveying the area. At one point, the detectives appealed to the public to stop bringing equipment to the station because there was an excess of it. After some time, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the state police joined the local police. Together, they continued to search for the missing girl. But this yielded no results. On May 15th, law enforcement decided to bring in additional forces and organized a large-scale search that covered a wide area for many kilometers around the town. The next morning, the police announced that they had managed to find Riley Crossman's body. It was located about a 40-minute drive from Berkeley Springs, near a country road, close to the top of a small mountain. The detectives immediately realized that they were dealing with a murder, not an accident. It all looked as if an unknown criminal had tried to hide the body away from prying eyes. Medical experts examined the body and confirmed that it was indeed Riley, Betty. However, they were unable to establish the cause of death due to severe decomposition. This was very strange, because a little over a week had passed since the girl's disappearance. Apparently, the killer had done something to the body. The investigators noticed several other strange things. First, the girl was wearing only one boot. They were unable to find the second one anywhere nearby. Second, it was concluded that the perpetrator had changed her clothes, as they had information that she should have been wearing leggings and a hoodie, while when found, she was wearing shorts. In addition, traces of whitewash or plaster were found on the girl. The police reclassified the case as a murder, and now they had to find the culprit. They again interrogated all of Riley's relatives and acquaintances and noticed something strange. The testimony of Andy McCauley, Chantel's live-in boyfriend, did not match the story of another person. Andy worked on a construction site in the neighboring town of Hedgesville. Initially, he told the police that on May 8th, he had not left his workplace from morning until evening. However, on the same day, around 10 a.m., his neighbor noticed a green pickup truck in front of their house. The neighbor knew that this vehicle belonged to neither Andy nor Chantel. Moreover, Andy's driver's license had been temporarily revoked. The neighbor asked Chantel what the vehicle was doing in front of their house, but the woman was unaware. After Riley's disappearance became known to the whole town, the neighbor decided to share this observation with the police. 1. The detectives decided to question Andy again. Core. They established that the vehicle belonged to one of his co-workers and that Andy had not previously driven it. D. The pickup truck owner often picked Andy up in the mornings to take him to work. Learning that the police knew about his movements that day, Andy changed his testimony. He stated that on that day, he had taken the pickup truck and went to buy illegal substances to later take them with a colleague at the construction site. After some time, he changed his testimony again and said that he had gone to his home to pick up the substances and then returned to work. It all looked very strange, but further on, the detectives were in for even more grim discoveries. To begin with, they spoke with Riley's mother and asked her to recall if she had noticed any oddities in her boyfriend's behavior. She then recounted that on May 8th, the day her daughter disappeared, Andy had acted suspiciously. When he returned home, Chantel told him about Riley's disappearance. The man immediately said he would go search for her, got on his bicycle, and left. However, when the woman returned from the search, she found that Andy was sleeping on his couch as if nothing had happened. Such behavior was quite strange. All of Riley's relatives were scouring the streets until late at night, assisted by concerned people. And Andy at this time simply went to bed as if nothing had happened. Moreover, one day, Chantel called Andy, and after that conversation, she began to suspect him. This was all because of his addiction to illegal substances. Next, the police spoke with Andy's colleague and found out that the man had been absent from work from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. In addition, he stated that Andy had initially had illegal substances with him, so there was no point in him going to get them. After that, the detectives searched the pickup truck and found a large trace of plaster in it. An examination showed that it was the same substance that had been found on Riley's clothes. The investigators brought service dogs to the pickup truck, which detected the odor of a corpse in the trunk. They also found several bolts in the vehicle that were rarely used on construction sites. At the same time, 2 exactly the same bolts were found near Riley's body. Soon, the police found another discrepancy in Andy's testimony. They examined footage from cameras in nearby towns and found out that on May 8th, the man had been several kilometers from the place where Riley's body would later be found. He was caught on gas station cameras and several road cameras. This was all strange, as Andy did not have a driver's license. Usually, other people gave him rides, and he traveled by bicycle. And on that day, he had taken someone else's car and had been driving it for half a day on unfamiliar routes. Another colleague told the police that on May 8th, Andy had asked him for 3 construction bags. A former colleague of Andy's also approached the detectives and told a very grim story. He said that they had never gotten along, but from around 2 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the morning on May 8th, Andy had called him several dozen times and also sent him a bunch of messages. He was in a panic and said that he urgently needed to hide somewhere. Andy explained this by saying that he had illegal substances and was afraid of being caught. This former colleague did not let him in, but later reported this to the police. Andy said that he had taken illegal substances that night, after which he noticed a parked police car not far from his house and panicked. However, the police department checked this information and found out that none of their vehicles had been in that area. This meant that Andy was lying. All the questioning was enough for Andy to be arrested the day after the body was found and charged with murder. 2. The man denied his guilt, so the case was taken to court. After that, the investigation was halted for more than 2 years. The trial began only on September 27, 2021. This was due to the coronavirus and the related restrictions, as well as the peculiarities of the U.S. system, where such delays are the norm. Nevertheless, during the trial, even more shocking details of this case were revealed. In her speech, Chantel recounted one very disturbing detail about the evening of May 7th. That day, she had returned from work at 10 p.m. Andy was sleeping on the couch. When she entered the room, the man immediately woke up. Seeing his eyes, Chantel immediately thought that he had taken illegal substances. Andy had taken potent drugs before and even had a conviction for possession, which the woman knew about. Next, the prosecution revealed information about a disturbing message sent from Riley's phone. Shortly before her disappearance, on May 7th at 11 p.m., the girl wrote to her boyfriend that Andy had come into her room. 12 minutes later, she sent another message, where she wrote that she was scared. She didn't get in touch again after that. Unfortunately, Hayden had already gone to bed at this time and didn't see them. By morning, they had already been deleted. At the trial, the boyfriend said that Andy had repeatedly entered Riley's room that evening. The girl had been communicating with her boyfriend via video chat, and Hayden had heard everything. Andy had asked her to wash the dishes and talked about some other household things. Riley was afraid of him. She had asked her boyfriend not to hang up while Andy was in her room. It also came out at the trial that Andy had called Riley several times at 3 a.m., but she hadn't answered, and later she blocked his number. According to the prosecution, Andy had made these calls to check if Riley was communicating with her boyfriend at that moment. Later, the data about these calls were deleted from both phones, but they remained with the cell phone provider. Despite all this, the prosecution had no evidence indicating what had actually happened that night. They speculated that Andy had killed Riley late at night, waited for morning, and gone to work. After that, he borrowed the car from a colleague, came to the house, took the body, and drove it to a secluded place. Then he cleared the history of messages and calls from her phone and got rid of it. It also came out at the trial that Chantel and Andy's biological mother not only knew about his addiction to illegal substances, but they also knew that under their influence, the man became aggressive and dangerous. The final court hearing took place on October 5, 2021. Despite the fact that all the available evidence was circumstantial and did not directly link Andy to the murder, the jury returned a guilty verdict. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The possibility of early release was considered. Andy's lawyers asked to give their client such an opportunity after 15 years. But in the end, the judge decided on a life sentence without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing, Andy showed no emotion. He had resigned himself to the inevitable.